What's happening, cannabis entrepreneurs from Delaware? You get to go to Delaware, and you're probably already there because you want to apply for a cannabis license, and that's one of the requirements. Not only that, you can find us over at Cannabis Legalization News on Sunday. We will keep you apprised of what's going on in Delaware. Right now, we're going to take a small little deep dive with me, Tom. I'm a cannabis lawyer, not from Delaware, so we'll just be consulting with you about what's going to be happening in your state. They have a limited license market that is sparsely filled right now, and it's open. And it also shows social equity. So what does that mean? There are different types of licenses that will be available for you to apply for, whether it's social equity, that'll be cheaper, or if you're just going to apply for what they call an open license. You see this sometimes in different states, and Delaware's borrowed a little bit from New Jersey. Let's go to the source. The source, of course, is the regulator's website. You always want to go to the regulator's website wherever you're looking to apply for a license. And in this one, they have the same naming conventions that many on the East Coast have. It'll be interesting if the OMC becomes something in the federal branch one day after it's in Schedule 3. They call it the Office of Marijuana Commissioner. Mostly the OMC is referred to as the Office of Cannabis Management. In this instance, in Delaware's case, it is the Office of the Marijuana Commissioner. The Marijuana Commissioner is this handsome fella right there, Law Enforcement Officer Rob Coupe. That could also be Coop, I suppose, who was a colonel and a superintendent of the Delaware State Police after serving 28 years. From the Reagan presidency all the way up to his retirement back in 2012, he will be the state's lead regulator. And he probably is showing you that they will be all about the rules. And don't forget to follow all those rules. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have access to your cannabis license lottery. It is a complete application in the sense that there will be some narrative required, not all that much. Let's go back and see what the license and the application will require. Here's the licensing process. You go to their frequently asked questions. The omc.delaware.gov would be your main resource. We have a news article and one that is on my law blog, cannabisindustrylawyer.com. Let's go to some licensing FAQs. When the licenses become available, you can apply starting on September 1st, and then the full timeline is right over here. Currently, right now, you can get yourself registered as social equity. We'll cover the details of what you need to be in a minute. And then on September 1st, the application period will begin. They will begin accepting applications. By November 1st, they hope to issue 60 cultivation facility licenses, which is good because they need a head start over the retail, and especially when a state has a small medical program and it goes live in adult use. And then product manufacturing licenses a month thereafter. And then in the spring, March 1st, you see the retail licenses. New Jersey and Delaware kind of remind me of one another because Delaware also has a micro business license that is for longtime Delaware residents. The social equity is a little different. So let's get into the FAQs a little bit more. Will be considered in the licensing process: comprehensive business plan, annual budget, and pro forma financial statements. As you can see, this is why, and same with New Jersey, it is a complete application in the sense that you must tender the application to gain entry to the lottery. And in that respect, it's also competitive, but it's competitive on a pass-fail basis, and then it's competitive like winning a lottery is competitive. However, there's not just the financial. Then it's also your experience. They will probably give you a metric for what that experience is. We are still in the final process of the public comment period, and the rules will be finalized here shortly. You also need to have plans for safety, security, and the prevention of diversion. That's all very important, as you see from state to state. Plans for operations, training, staffing, and including the following: a social responsibility plan outlining diversity goals, safe, healthy, economic, beneficial workplace environment. You see that very often, supporting fair wages and benefits. That's one of the reasons why some people believe in the limited market. These are compliance costs that are put on top of those licensed businesses, and you just don't see it in open market states because the price compression gets too high as more and more dispensaries open up. It's harder and harder to provide all these benefits to your employees because the cash flows are not as guaranteed as in a licensed market state. Of course, they also want to make sure you're not a criminal, at least not a cannabis criminal. We'll get back into social equity in a second. The suitability of the proposed facilities, that gets to the real estate component. They will have different rules depending on what type of applicant you are. If you're social equity or micro business, you have a different real estate requirement than if you're just going for the open license that they're giving out. The open license, you're going to have to show the most capital for and be ready to go, meaning that you're going to need the real estate more than that. And then anything deemed appropriate by the commissioner, Rob Coop, superintendent of the Delaware State Police, will be the commissioner. Here in the Cannabis Business Times article, they call him the top regulator for the forthcoming adult use program. I'm assuming that makes him the commissioner. What types of licenses will be issued? Here's the types of licenses that will be issued in Delaware. You have the social equity licenses. These are common, and they are very often the thing that gets the legislation over the mark, and so that they finally can get a block of votes to be able to pass the legislation because of social equity. Social equity in Delaware is very difficult to qualify for because you must be a resident of Delaware and also one of these things. You can have ownership and control, 51% ownership and control. So that is a manager of a manager-managed LLC and has resided in 5 out of the past 10 years in a disproportionately impacted area. Also a key term that you see in social equity from state to state, abbreviated as a DIA. And so 51% ownership and control if they can show that they lived in one of these DIAs. As you can see, it just says meets one of the following criteria. An applicant for one of the licenses with 51% ownership and control for being convicted of delivery of any marijuana-related offense, except giving it to kids. They don't want you if you give it to kids. Remember that. Don't give weed to kids. You shouldn't even have to cover this. Any marijuana offense with a tier 3 quantity as defined. So it looks like you could go over the line. You could be too real and too involved in the legacy market. The functional equivalent of that on a federal or any other state. Or you could be married to or the child of a person who was convicted of or adjudicated delinquent for any marijuana-related offense. So, I wish they had in Illinois. I know people personally that don't qualify for this. And so you can go over the line here in Delaware. But it seems like, let's say you went over the line and got married and had a kid. And the kid's also over 21 because this is adult use cannabis. And you're still married. That means that the spouse and the child should be able to qualify them. That's the regular social equity. And then there's micro business. Micro business is a different one, and it's very similar to what they had in New Jersey. And so it is a 2,500 square foot outdoor facility, 51% ownership and control, who have resided in Delaware for 5 out of the past 10 years. As you know, you can have moved to Delaware within the last 12 months and be currently, this is pretty much the original definition of Illinois' social equity applicant, pretty much the original. They've changed it. People got sued. It tends to employ no more than 10 employees. There you go. And then will not possess more than 1,000 marijuana plants a month. Very similar to the micro business in New Jersey. It's kind of how that launched, but there's circumstances as for why. Tune in to the podcast, Cannabis Legalization News, on Sunday for more of that. And then finally, open licensing. This is the licenses for everybody who is not going for a micro business or social equity. I think that this is going to be where you see the most participation because you can keep the equity. There are restrictions on how you can sell it. However, you would be able to apply even if you don't have social equity and you don't want to go to a micro business. You still have to win a lottery. I think your odds are going to be longest in the open license lottery and shortest in the social equity license lottery, maybe the micro business. I'm not sure. We'll find out. We have more for you over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com. We've gone through the rules and the regulations and created this is a good one that we haven't touched on. How much are the fees for applying to get your Delaware cannabis business license? Well, micro cultivation, that's the one that we're talking about right here, $3,000, and that is for 2,500 square feet of flowering canopy or less, indoor only. They aren't going to bring out that many. 10 social equity ones and 20 micro business licenses. Now, there's open cultivation that, again, is just like social equity, except it's not. You don't need to qualify for social equity. They're also giving out 10 social equity cultivation licenses that are larger than 2,500 square feet and 20 open licenses. For manufacturing, you have a $5,000 fee. It's 10 social equity licenses, 10 open licenses, and 10 micro business licenses. And for retail, not very many, 15 open licenses, 15 social equity, $5,000 to apply. Social equity fees are lower, $1,000 if you're social equity. $1,000, and they will get half the licenses, and they will probably be a fraction of the applicants. So go over to my blog, CannabisIndustryLawyer.com. Fill this out. It'll put you in touch with our consulting firm, Collateral Base, as I am not licensed as a lawyer in Delaware, but also I don't do application work as legal work. I do it as consulting work. Legal work is completely different. I will pontificate on the differences between legal work and consulting work over at Cannabis Legalization News. If you enjoyed this and you're intending to apply for Delaware, smash those likes, click subscribe, check out our other information, and tune into the podcast. Thank you.